Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
And a good morning to you. I just had a long spate of sneezes, and it could well be that I'm not done. I hope I am. Hello. It's the 3rd of July, and this is my last show for a while. Possibly 3 weeks, possibly just 1 week. I'll ask you all to, check out whether I'm on a week from Monday, when I might. It's just, I'm really trying to feel my way through a break here, and I'm not quite sure how much of a break I need and or should take. So I appreciate you bearing with me. It's fairly obvious why I might need a break. And in fact, it comes now with so much up in the air. Not as much as there had been. I mean, we now know how horrible this Supreme Court is. Any doubt we had on that score is now settled. But there's huge doubt about who should be running for president. The truth is, neither of them. I have never said that. Obviously, I've always thought that of Donald Trump, but I thought people who were saying Biden's too old were mostly just ageist, and myself being pretty damn old. Biden's just got 4 or so years on me. I was quick to take umbrage at this sense that a number all of a sudden disqualifies somebody. But I can't unsee what I saw. And I can't help now but think, what else have I not been able to see? The truth is, and I always poo-pooed this as well, but I am no longer poo-pooing it. The truth is that Biden, as president, has limited his contact with reporters substantially more than other presidents. He has granted fewer interviews than any president of the modern era, fewer news conferences than any president since Ronald Reagan. And the reality is he has been managed by the White House to keep him shielded, to keep us shielded. The unhappy reporting in the New York Times that maybe a month ago I would have jumped all over the Times for doing it, for the headline, some in room with Biden say lapses are increasing. Concern grows over moments of confusion. I would have gone on full rant about the Times. I would have said, oh, and where's the story about Trump's incoherence? Oh. But the Times is doing what its job is. And this is extremely well sourced. I can see they didn't do this haphazardly. And they're telling us something that we need to hear. For those of you who haven't read it, it's a long story and it's hard to read. But it starts with this, that several current and former officials and others who have encountered Joe Biden behind closed doors noticed that he increasingly has appeared confused or listless or would lose the thread of a conversation. At other times, he could be sharp as a tack. But the lapses, the confusion seem to be more frequent and more pronounced. Okay. We all have known older people. Some of us, as I said earlier, are older people. And the decline that comes with aging is real. And for the person in decline, it's often daunting. But I'm sorry, I'm talking off the top of my head. The reality is, I have said many times that I could not comprehend how he manages to do his job. Being on constantly. It's pointed out in the article, which is true, before the debacle of the debate. He had, for 3 weeks and plus, had an incredible schedule. He had crossed the ocean more than once. He had done time zone changes, huge time zone changes, and had to hit the ground, well, metaphorically running. He had to be on. And I was in awe of his ability to do that. And I said, well, if his gait is stiffer, that does not in any way suggest his head is stiffer. But now we saw something. We saw something horrific. We saw something that I couldn't watch. I told you, because I didn't want to see the humiliation. And on a more selfish note, I did not want to see the standard bearer of my party tanking. I don't know, guys. But the despair that I often greet you with has intensified as I watch the Democratic Party doing the very things that the Republican Party does. Fall in line behind the leader. Give him support, full-throated support in public, and wring their hands in private. That's what the Republicans have done until they're now in full capitulation. I thought we were the party that didn't allow ourselves to be gaslit, to have somebody tell us that what we saw was really nothing, just a bad night. Nancy Pelosi, I believe, yesterday said something quite pointed. She was wondering, she says, I'd like to know if that was a moment or if it's a condition. I would too. And I would suggest it is a condition. Anyone who thinks that the man we saw at that debate is capable of 4 more years in the presidency is in serious denial. And I and to see him and his wife doubling down makes me angry, because there's a selfishness afoot. There's an unwillingness to accept reality. There's a hubris in thinking that the presidency is somehow yours, that you have it, and you will not relinquish it. I think Joe Biden is in true danger of destroying what could well be an incredible legacy of having saved us from Donald Trump and then being a really good president for 4 years. And if he hangs on now and asks us to go along with this charade, he's going to, well, possibly put Donald Trump back in the White House, possibly cost the party seats in the Senate and the House. He will drag things down. He is no one to have at the top of a ticket in the most consequential election of our lives. Thomas Friedman, you'll recall, had written of his anguish watching the debate. He was in Portugal and he watched and he said he cried. He cried because he knows Joe Biden. They are friends as much as pundits and office holders can be. And he called for him then to step down. And he writes a very, very poignant column today. And I know he wrote this with the constant hope that not you would read it or I would read it, but that he would read it. It's really a letter to him from a friend. And he says this, which is just brilliant. Immediately after Hamas invaded Israel on October 7, I urged Israel to think about how to respond by asking itself just one question. What does your worst enemy want you to do? And then do the opposite. Well, Hamas and Iran, of course, wanted Israel to do exactly what it ended up doing. Storm into Gaza and raze it to the ground. Israel took the bait, did exactly what Hamas wanted. Which is why I have often said that the blood of all those Palestinians there is on Hamas. They used them to turn the world against Israel. If tens of thousands of them needed to die, well, I don't know. So, Joe Biden. Friedman says Biden, his family, and the party leadership should ask this same question. What does your worst enemy, obviously Donald Trump, hope that you do now? And then you do the opposite. And there is no question about what Trump wants. He's been incredibly quiet since the debate. A bit of gloating, well, for him, a bit. He's just waiting. Salivating, says Friedman, at the prospect of this old gape-mouthed man staying in the race so he can go to work on him. And then Friedman starts imagining the ads, the gold mine that Biden gave Trump that horrific night. You could take out, there's so many clips you wouldn't even know which ones to use. But imagine putting a bunch of them together. Biden incoherent, Biden staring into space. Show that, and then, yeah, ask the voter, is this the man you want answering the phone at 3 a.m. if the Russians or the Chinese are attacking us? Trump so wants Biden to stay in because he is certain that he can beat him. Now, you and I have been telling ourselves ad nauseum that Trump can't win. But, guys, when are we going to learn? That's what we thought, right? In 2016. We were sure of it. What a joke. He won. No, most Americans didn't want him, but that's not the system we have. We have, yes, of course, the electoral system. And even though he lost the popular vote, he won. And that could well happen again. You know, if you look at all the battleground states, and I don't know if I pulled that out somewhere, it's scary because Trump is ahead of Biden in all of the states that are going to decide this. Interestingly enough, the Democratic senators from those states who are running, Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin and Casey here, they're running way ahead of Joe Biden. That is not the way a ticket is supposed to work. The guy at the top is supposed to have, right, coattails, supposed to pull along those under. And that's not what the polls are showing. And you can say, oh, polls, schmoles, which is what I say too. But guys, when it's a tsunami of polls telling us the same thing over and over and over again, then we become the problem. We who choose denialism. We who decide that what we saw was not what we saw. Nate Silver, who is a pollster type, he wrote something that is unsettling. He says a lot of the things that the Biden faithful are saying. Oh, it's, Obama had a horrible debate. Reagan had a horrible debate. And here's the reality. Obama had a much higher approval rating, as did Reagan. And it's not the same. It's apples and oranges. And I don't care how bad their debates were, they were nothing like the horror of Biden's debate. Nate Silver says this: Democrats should be more open to what the polls are telling them. And the data, he says, are remarkably consistent. There are 5 presidential swing states that also have highly competitive Senate races. This is what I was talking about. That's Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. There have been almost 50 nonpartisan surveys conducted since it became clear that Biden and Trump would be the standard bearers. And in 46 of 47 polls, the Senate candidate on the Democratic side polled way better than Biden. None of the polls showed the Democratic candidate trailing in the Senate races. The same cannot be said of how Biden and fares against Trump. He was tied with Trump in 2 of 47 polls, and he trailed in 38. Biden is underperforming in Pennsylvania by 8 points, in Arizona by 11. This is trailing the Democratic Senate candidate. 13 points in Nevada's race. Wisconsin, 8 points. It's Tammy Baldwin. This is not what a functional party walks into a consequential election with. This doddering, God bless him, but now doddering old man. Back to Friedman. He says, look, what Trump most fears is that Biden will do something that Trump could never imagine doing. That Biden will teach the country how a leader says goodbye. What Trump most fears is that Biden will demonstrate the difference between a leader and a party who put the country first and a leader and a party who put themselves first. And Friedman goes on to tell the president what he has to do. He has to declare that he will not run. He has to release his delegates. He can endorse Kamala if he wants, but he should make clear that the nomination must be decided at an open convention. And then imagine, who knows who comes out ahead, but whoever they are, they will be a more formidable foe than the president. He destroyed himself at that debate. What does your enemy want you to do? Keep on keeping on, Joe. But if he does what the first president of this country did, if he says no, I'm stepping down as Washington did. And Washington showed the way, the first one. You don't get to stay. It's not about you. And once he were to stand aside, he'd still be the president. And he could go to town supporting the ticket. He could use the bully pulpit, his credibility, his administration. And you know what? Americans will look on and think, wow, what an honorable man, as opposed to the other guy. Friedman says this: instead of having to defend himself from a tsunami of attack ads about his diminished mental capacity, Biden could bombard the airwaves with a set of arguments that could answer Trump's lies while reminding voters that the reason they elected Biden in 2020 was because they knew that America can only stay great if it is led by a unifier and not an avenger. You know, a friend sent me an interview, a podcast that James Carville was on, and he was saying all this kind of thing too. You know, when you have the better political minds all saying it's, and then saying, Carville kept saying, but of course we're just fantasizing. The sense is that, of course, everything Thomas Friedman is suggesting here and everything I am begging for here will not happen. We'll stick with him, and maybe we'll go down with him, but so will the country. The stakes are too damn high. I'm, hang on. Here is also from the formerly Republican Never Trumpers, Bill Kristol. He too says that he's just got to step aside. At the end of the day, he says there are no maneuvers the White House, the campaign can make to make people unsee what they saw. And he says it's also fair to note that the Biden family has not been helping a whole lot. At a fundraiser on Saturday, Jill Biden claimed Joe isn't just the right person for the job, he's the only person for the job. Whoa. You think? I hope Kamala Harris wasn't in the room. He's not the only person. That's not how it works. This sense of entitlement the Bidens have. Power corrupts. And then Crystal points out that Hunter Biden is in town, and he's apparently been dropping in on some White House staff meetings, not campaign meetings, but White House meetings. What is this, Jared Kushner now? The fundamental issue, quoting Crystal, isn't the campaign. It's not the Biden family. It's not even last week's debate. It's the fitness of the president to be president for 4 more years. We all hope Biden is well, but we do not know that he is well. Remember how they covered up Reagan's dementia? We'll be the last to know. In response to, the concerns, the White House has, just said really nothing. Well, here's Pelosi's quote. Is this an episode or is this a condition? And when she was asked, well, what do you think? She said, hey, I'm not a doctor. I can't say what happens 3 or 4 years down the road. I would suggest that Nancy Pelosi, see, there's this sort of like studied, careful pushing going on by Pelosi, by Clyburn, by apparently Obama too has expressed some concerns, but not publicly. And the clock's ticking. Incredibly, Crystal ends with this. Donald Trump must be defeated. Biden should step aside to make that task more achievable. I increasingly think he will. What? Now, I don't know. Margaret says he appears to have Parkinson's. Look, none of us, he appears to definitely be a not totally well old guy. The cause could just be age. Or it could be, yes, he has a condition. But that man that we saw at that debate, I'm sorry, no, that's not a winner. And we can't rely on Trump to be so awful that people will say, we'll go with that doddering old guy instead. People don't pay that close attention. They aren't aware of the consequences. Ah, Margaret writes, if there's a change, like Biden drops out, you better get your ass back on the air. That'll be hard for me to stay off. It's true. Well, no, if that happens, I will be one happy camper. Now, I'm not wild about some of the people that might take, but anyone, Petunia Pig, that's my girl, if she's a Democrat. Just simple as that. This is not the slam dunk we thought it was going to be, a lot of us, even as we expressed our fears and concerns. No, this is far from it now. Far from it. Guys, you know, I don't think I have anything left to say. The other thing, of course, is seeing how, Trump's sentencing now is delayed. The Atlanta case is now totally up in the air. Man, that court. Whoa. So, all the building blocks for a total fascist takeover of this country are in place. And we're going into the battle of our lives with Joe Biden at the helm. And I don't want to ever appear to be disparaging him, but I am angry at him right now. I'm angry because he seems like he can suck it up on occasion. If he is incapable of sucking it up, he needs to go. And if there was ever a time when he needed to suck it up, it was that debate. And apparently he could not. And I will not be told I'm some kind of a freaking out. No, I'm not. I'm desperate to keep Trump out of the White House. Somebody is saying here in chat that I agree. I respect the man, but I would respect him more if he endorsed another candidate. He doesn't have to endorse anybody. He has to say it's time for a new generation to take with vigor and the strength and the stamina to take on this incredible threat. The New York Times reporting also said that when he was over there in Europe at the G7 and at the D-Day stuff, there were a number of issues where allies, leaders, and others did express shock or concern about his diminished state. Dear God. I don't know. It's hard to acknowledge one's powerlessness. And I feel so frighteningly powerless. The person with the power, there's a few people that have power right now, power that could be used. They are our Democratic former presidents, Obama, Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, Clyburn, anyone who's a true friend of his and holds standing in the party. They are the only ones. I had hoped Jill would speak truth to him, but no, she's not going to. And I want to say she loves him, but she's wrong. Because if she really loved him, she'd want him to go out in an honorable way, showing strength, showing leadership, not gaslighting us. Had enough of that. That's what the other side does. Tells us that what we're seeing is not what we're seeing. I don't need that coming from my party. God, forgive me. I mean, forgive me for screaming at you like this. Oh, okay. So I think that's. Wait, Beth has come on board. Hang on, Beth. Let me get it to you. Let me get it. Um, let's see. Oh, Lynn. The thing I've always admired about Joe Biden is he has put his family and country ahead of himself. And maybe his refusal to drop out shows me it is beyond time for him to go, as this refusal to go is not in his character of a lifetime of public service. You know, I was thinking that as well. I suspect that he's a very sentimental, good-hearted soul, and I think he knows he doesn't have 4 years in him. But I think he wants to do what Bo did. I think he literally wants to die with his boots on in service to his country. And what he's not seeing is there's a much better path. And his mind, as well as it's working sometimes, I suppose, is not, I think, is beclouded by 4 years as the president, where you're treated like a king, where you're in a bubble, where you get used to being top dog and you like it. Beth goes on, obviously Kamala Harris should be the natural front runner, but in conversations and overhearing conversations, a lot of white guys don't like her. Oh, shocking. I'm not wild about her. I mean, I wasn't wild about her when she was one of the, I was not happy with his choice of her. There were stronger candidates. But he was, I'm sorry to say, playing the game that Democrats play. He was, playing identity politics. He was not. And when you stop and think of that huge bunch of people that Biden finally bested that were wanting to run in 2020, Kamala Harris was, I felt, one of the weaker candidates. Beth goes on, the feminist in me wants to yell at these misogynistic white guys, but again, this is not the time. We have one objective, and that is to keep Trump out of the White House, period. As we all know, this election is the biggest of our lifetimes, especially after the Roberts Court has set us on the path of destroying democracy. I believe our best bets are Josh Shapiro, great moderate candidate that even non-MAGA Republicans would support. But will big money back him? Gavin Newsom could be portrayed as a California lefty. The big money loves him. I keep thinking I wish it would be someone like John Tester, because he'd play well in the states we need. I hope after your time off we have some clarity and a candidate we can, fight for. Well, thank you for that, Beth. Whatever candidate we have, we will fight for. NF writes, if women and young people are the deciding votes, Kamala Harris may be the best successor. Look, I'm not going to argue with anybody. I just think that when somebody like Jill Biden says he's the only person for the job, that's a red flag. And it shows she's lost her bearings. And I suspect he's lost his bearings. Guys, I just want to say, I want to thank you. I really want to thank you for being there. Um, this, and I do feel it's a community. This community um, buoys me. Um, and in as much as you interact with me, your emails, your chats, your phone calls, I mean, all of that is you have no idea. Because this old person, uh, I guess like Joe Biden, can't imagine walking away. And I've wondered if I am being less than honest with myself because I clearly feel that I'm not as sharp as I once was. Uh, there is no doubt that as we age, you lose a step here, you lose a brain cell or 2 million there, and you're just not as sharp. But I have entertained the thought that I should hang it up, but I'm not inclined to do so. And you've stuck with me, and for that, I'm thanking you. It means a lot. So, this time off is in hopes of sort of regaining some measure of strength that I don't feel I have right now. And that's that's not physical for me much. It's much more emotional strength. I'm not, even though I come off as one, I ain't a tough cookie. I'm not, not at all. When you are suggesting people, I mean, I'm thinking you say Shapiro, and I think Jew, Buttigieg, gay, Newsom, uh, California lefty, and my God, he was married to that horror show that Don Jr.'s with. I don't know. I mean, everybody I see something. Oh my God, no. Because I'm scared. I'm really scared. Chuck, what? Susan writes, instead of politicians having a bloodbath, place General Milley at the top of the ticket and keep Harris as the vice president. Well, Milley, he's got reason to, run because Trump has called for his execution. And given what the Supreme Court has told Trump, he now feels he does have carte blanche to literally kill Liz Cheney, the whole January 6th committee, Mike Pence, and that leaves me with again the horrible realization that uh, millions and millions of people in this country and people we know will vote for Joe Biden. I didn't mean that. That was a Freudian slip. Donald Trump. They're going to vote for Donald Trump. It's the voters that scare the bejeebers out of me. Milton writes, if Biden was playing identity politics, he could have picked a better VP in Stacey Abrams. Well, that's for sure. Didn't he say, the reason I said that is my memory, granted, failing slightly, that my memory tells me that he said he was going to pick a black person or a woman. Was it a woman? It was a woman. That's it. But it was that same kind of, yeah. Time for a woman, time for a black, time for this and time for that. Thank you, Ed, and thank you, Jonathan. Thank you all for wishing me a good time away. I sure as hell hope so. I'm actually trepidatious about it because I'm going off by myself. I will not have my beloved dog with me. I'm literally, yeah, going into the woods. And I'm still struggling with how much I'm going to tune out. I don't know. Scary. Hey, I saw a feel good story yesterday, and odds are you're ahead of me on it, but I'll leave it with you. There's a baseball player, major league baseball player, uh, who he plays for the Mets. Do you know what I'm talking about now? I'm sure. Um, his name is Jose Iglesias, right? And he has like a hit song out called OMG, oh my God. And he has been, I saw a video of him after a game, after the Mets, I don't know, beat somebody. And I believe he's a consequential member of that team. Um, uh, he helped win that victory. He comes on the field, back on the field, and starts singing his song. And there's backup dancers, and it is so delightful. And then, damn, if his teammates don't come dancing out onto the field, they're dancing around, they're singing with him. And I'm watching that and just loving it, just loving it. So if you want to treat yourself to something that sure does feel good, I do recommend that. Um, okay, I guess we're out of time. Listen, I really don't quite know what I'm doing. I will definitely, here's the definite return date, but it might be it August 19th. No, what is that? What do you, no, that's not true, not true. It would be July 29. I will definitely be back then. However, I could do a week starting July 15, which is a week from Monday. That's the week I'm not sure of. The other 2 weeks that bookended, I know I'm not available, but we'll see. And I think, Margaret, what you said, if he does, if Biden does the right thing, emulates George Washington, um, I'll definitely want to be back for that. So we'll play it by ear. And again, just thank you guys so much for being there. And I just love you. I do. I love you. Before I get sappy or start sneezing again, I'm out of here. Have a good one. Hang in there and be tougher than me.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.